I'm the founder of Elle Interiors, and I focus on creating aligned and profitable environments for dentists. As a CPA, MBA, former corporate executive for 20 plus years in the finance industry, I strive to bring more of a strategic lens to the interior design practice. I work with practice owners and really focus on helping them transition their physical space into a true driver of performance. We want to create an environment that creates an experience around the patients as they walk in the door, as well as a supportive experience for the staff. So, in paying attention to these areas, we can really create a partner out of the space that these dentists occupy with their teams and elevate it to a strategic asset that is really doing the work for them.
That's amazing, Miss Michelle.
Amazing.
The one thing that you mentioned that is, as I was driving home from my office, when you sent me your bio and I was looking at it, I was like, you went from a CPA to a to a interior design for a dental practice. I'm like, how did that come about? Because that is an interesting part of this whole thing.
It is interesting. I will say that my journey was a little bit of a crooked path, but it was all purposeful because I think that I have found that I bring that really analytical approach into my designs and the detail-oriented habits that I have developed into the way that I approach business with my practices to create the design to support their business. So, for example, when I come into a practice, I feel more of a partner and I feel more compassion for the business owner and I understand the investment that they're making and the chance that they're taking on their future and what they're truly trying to do. I'm not coming in to make a pretty space. I'm coming in to make a space that's going to serve them, expand their brand, and help them do business on a day-to-day basis. I felt when I was very young, stepping back, this is the reason why I was naturally drawn to design, is I felt the other person's experience in that space and I wanted to make it better. I wanted to make
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Christmas special of Dentments. Today we have Michelle Cummings, and it's her very first podcast. So thank you so much, Michelle, for choosing us as your first podcast. Appreciate you. So Michelle is joining us from North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really an honor to have you here. She's actually the first female that we're having after maybe 100 episodes that we've done. Is that
wow, it's a lot of firsts.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry if me and Milad were nervous or anything like that. It's been so long since we've been around WIM. So, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to our guests, how you ended up here in the dental industry, and why you're here today.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Masood, and thank you, Dr. Malad, for having me on today. This is really exciting. Well, as you said, my name is Michelle Cummings. I'm the founder of Elle Interiors, and I focus on creating aligned and profitable environments for dentists. As a CPA, MBA, former corporate executive for 20 plus years in the finance industry, I strive to bring more of a strategic lens to the interior design practice. I work with practice owners and really focus on helping them transition their physical space into a true driver of performance. We want to create an environment that creates an experience around the patients as they walk in the door, as well as a supportive experience for the staff. So, in paying attention to these areas, we can really create a partner out of the space that these dentists occupy with their teams and elevate it to a strategic asset that is really doing the work for them.
That's amazing, Miss Michelle.
Amazing.
The one thing that you mentioned that is, as I was driving home from my office, when you sent me your bio and I was looking at it, I was like, you went from a CPA to a to a interior design for a dental practice. I'm like, how did that come about? Because that is an interesting part of this whole thing.
It is interesting. I will say that my journey was a little bit of a crooked path, but it was all purposeful because I think that I have found that I bring that really analytical approach into my designs and the detail-oriented habits that I have developed into the way that I approach business with my practices to create the design to support their business. So for example, when I come into a practice, I feel more of a partner and I feel more compassion for the business owner and I understand the investment that they're making and the chance that they're taking on their future and what they're truly trying to do. I'm not coming in to make a pretty space. I'm coming in to make a space that's going to serve them, expand their brand, and help them do business on a day-to-day basis. I felt when I was very young, stepping back, this is the reason why I was naturally drawn to design, is I felt the other person's experience in that space and I wanted to make it better. I wanted to make their life easier getting ready or anything that I could do. I started out, rearranging my friends' rooms so we'd have more play space. So it would be easier for them to do the things they wanted to do in their room and enjoy that time. And that was an instinct for me. When life happens, you go for things that make sense sometimes. And going to school for my CPA, well, my accounting degree first, really made sense for me at the time. I was interested in business and, like I said to you earlier, tactical and detail oriented. But being in business for many years, I got to see how the different spaces I worked in affected how people acted in those spaces. And so I use some of that learning now too. So it wasn't definitely a well-rounded way to get here, although it took me maybe a little bit longer than someone who is a straightforward interior designer.
Oh,
That's
that's
great.
amazing.
Michelle, before you got into this journey of helping dental practices, behind every journey, there's an aha moment. Like, for example, Dr. Milat came up with Dentsply, and I remember his aha moment about 1.5 years ago that he was talking about it and he was saying, the things he was saying that, like, I was a dental student, I didn't have much support, so let's build this. When was your aha moment and how was it? Like, what did you think of that? You realize, okay, now I need to transition into this because I can see the problem. I can see why these dentists are failing. And, this is the area that I can be the best at.
Yes. Well, it was an interesting story because I was still working in business and doing residential projects on the side, helping one family at a time tackle the problems and, improve their daily life. But one client in particular suddenly came to a screeching halt, and I thought, oh no, I must have done something wrong. And she's like, we have to stop. Okay. She's like, we have to stop. And 2 months later, she came back to me and said, my husband is expanding his dental practice, new location, it's a fast food restaurant. We need it transformed into a dental practice. Would you bid on this job and take a look at it? And so I did, even though my first instinct was to say, absolutely not. Residential was where I played and where I was comfortable. But my business mind and something inside of me said, keep going with this. So I put one foot in front of the other, stepping into this dental practice, and it just absorbed me. Like I mentioned, the weight of the legacy of this single practice owner purchasing a new building that was a current fast food restaurant and creating their next phase of their journey and trusting me to be alongside them, it just opened my vision just way, way out, amazed at how much of an impact I could have. And I took that very seriously and approached it from that aspect of learning and business. I mean, that was what I knew because I knew business and residential. So I approached it like it was my business. And that is the same approach that I have now used on practices afterward, because in that moment, I understood the impact that could be happening. And it was a pediatric practice. So that was all the more exciting. I was shaping the way that children would experience the dentist for the rest of their lives.
That's
No,
amazing.
that's such a story. I mean, going from a
That is an
fast food to a dental practice, how it pretty much shaped your future. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is indeed amazing. Miss Michelle, the one thing is I want to ask, as a, I practice dentistry day to day. So the one thing that I want to know is when you're going in and, you want to help these dentists kind of design their practice, how do you kind of read their vision and build around their vision? Because obviously when you're going in, you don't really, you may have some idea, like how do you kind of utilize what they want and bring that to life for them? What is that process is like for you when you want to go in and help them kind of bring what they have in their mind to life? Like, what is that process like for you?
Well, it typically starts early on in our discovery process. So when they are, for example, if you're building a new practice, you have plans, or if you're doing a renovation, you have plans, the architect's involved. I come in, I meet the doctors or the practice leader and talk about what they are trying to achieve. If it's a new build in a new neighborhood, maybe they're trying to attract some attention. If they have an existing space that they're renovating, well, they've got a reason for that. They're either looking to prepare it to be sold, or they're looking to attract, an associate into the practice. There's a lot of reasons why a dentist or a practice owner would do a renovation. And so I really try to understand, first of all, the reasoning behind the renovation. And from there, we can have deeper conversations. And those deeper conversations do involve business for me because it's important to me to understand your business, and I can do that with my background. I've been helping businesses grow for over 20 years, and now I just do it in this different way. It gives more creative outlet for me and a visible result for the people that I work with. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just kind of like understanding where they want to take their business and understanding where they want to go and trying to approach it from that perspective. That makes sense because a lot of time as a dentist, sometimes we don't even know where our business want to go. And having somebody to come in and just really be able to brainstorm and figuring out the ways, I think that's very helpful from that perspective. But are you whenever you're doing this process as far as like either renovation or your new build and all those things for you when you're talking to the dentist, what are some of the key things that the dentists are interested in from a perspective of the patient aspect of it? Like what is it that the dentist want to do for the patient so that it's more comfortable when the patient walks in? What are some of the trend that you're seeing that the dentists are taking on to make their practice more welcoming for the patient in a sense, like make it feel more like when you walk in you don't feel like you're at a dental office, you feel like you're at a different place because dental office is scary for some people.
It absolutely can be scary for some people, and I'm really aware of that because I have friends who are afraid of the dentist. I, for one, love the dentist. The first thing I bought with my accounting salary was braces when I came out of school. So I had braces for the first time as my big investment with my newly found career. But I understand that not everybody feels that way at the dentist. So I think for the doctors, what's really most important to them, especially with a new practice, is the new patient experience when they first walk through the door. When they first walk through the door, they are coming into a reception area. Reception means we're receiving you, we're welcoming you, you are welcome here. This is a transition space. And it's an opportunity to set their mind at ease. Now, you can do this with distraction, like television and movies, or you can do this with scent. You can also do this with plants and water features that will then set their senses at ease. So, like you said, it depends on what the dentist would like or what the business owner would like to come across to their patients, which is why it's important to talk with them about their business, their demographics. Do the people that are going to be seen as patients come in with caregivers? How do we support those caregivers while they're here? If it's older people who have caregivers, then those caregivers are going to sit in the lobby and do their work. If it's kids with caregivers, those caregivers are going to want to go in with the kids. So how do we accommodate that? There is a lot of questions that happen. It is not a quick answer. There are spaces where you want to mitigate the noise, but you don't have a soundproof wall available to you. How can you do that? Water features, sound machines, other things. There's unsightly views into certain things. How do we take care of that? Well, we can shield it to some degree, maybe. If not, we can create a distraction. For example, in this practice that I'm in right now, we created a train in the lobby. It's a children's practice. And so when the children come into the door, they see a life-size train that is make believe and fun, but it has an open doorway, and you go in and you play an interactive game that is projected on the floor where they stomp on things instead of click on things with a mouse. So it gets a little bit of their energy out. It gets them to be thinking that, hey, this is a fun place. And then we pull that experience through the practice. So as they're going down the hall, they're going to have the experience of traveling, that they're on a train. There's going to be exciting things to look at. And you keep that experience going, and that's just one way of the example. I mean, we can go take that through the whole practice, but that is what you really want to do. You want to create that experience, you want to pull it through, keep everybody feeling the energy that you want to put out.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a different, very, very different perspective that I'd never seen anyone look at it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Actually, I've been interviewing maybe over like 5 to 10 UI UX designers for our work since the last 3 days. And you're pretty much like a UI UX designer for a dental clinic. You understand what UI UX is, right? It's like a technical term, like
Okay.
and user
User
experience.
interface. Yes. Okay. Well, that's a really interesting way to think of it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You pretty much design the experience of the users of a dental practice.
Yes.
One question I've been asking on the interviews is how do you understand, firstly, the user demographic, especially because the people that we're bringing on, like they don't have the dental context and they don't know how, people in the dental space really think and work. So one question I keep asking them is how do you understand, let me actually tailor it to you. So how do you understand the patient demographics when you walk into a new location, like depending on whether the patients are old, whether the patients are middle age, and how do you make sure the kind of design that you're making is going to be in line with how like people in that area are more tuned to? Like, does that make sense? Like from
It
area to
does.
area, that could be different. From state to state, could be a different design.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as far as location specific questions go, I would look at the practices around, not for ideas, but for information. You got to do your research. And so you have to get a really good picture of what you are dealing with before you go off and, choose something for the space. So I really try to take my time with the research. Obviously, talking to the doctors, they know the most. They've done the location search. I would even talk to the realtors. I'd talk to the space owners. If it was a shared space, I'd look at what's going on in the rest of the space. You really want to align the design in a way that it makes sense for the community, not just the doctor. But as far as the demographics go, like prosthodontists that I work with, they will tell me. I work with people, 50 and above that are needing implants or needing a whole new set of dentures, and that you can talk with them about what they've seen, how often they use wheelchairs. Do people, do they sit a long time? Do they wait a long time? Is it a long procedure depending on the type of dentist that I'm working with? So there's things that I need to understand about their dental practice before I can start designing. So that factors in whether you're doing orthodontics or endodontics. It's all a different type of patient experience. So it is really unique, which is why when you ask about trends, I can't always say that I follow trends because pretty is a lot different than uniquely branded and profitable. So that's what I aim for because I feel that there should be an ROI on your interior design, and just like there would be on any other investment you would make in your business.
That kind of answers the next question I was going to ask, and it was a little bit challenging, but I'll ask it anyways. Another question that I ask on the interviews is how do you make sure your design, besides just being pretty, is also functional?
Well, function is the first step of the process. I love to be involved with the architect. Shige, if you this podcast is geared toward dental students, I understand. And so if you are looking to build a practice and you want to make sure that your design is targeted to what you want to create, you want to bring in a designer as early into the process as possible because I work with the architect and I will change layouts. I will make suggestions based on all the information that I get from my clients as well as what I'm starting to think about for the design of the space. So it's important that you bring in your designer as early as possible if you're going to use one to create your optimal space.
I think you're the first person that actually answered that question without firstly being stressed, because everyone I asked them, they were like, super stressed. They get nervous. And yeah, I mean, doctor, I can say I can vouch for her. She's very expert.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, whenever I start opening my 150 practices, we can hire Miss Michelle.
I
That's
will
kind of the,
say, it doesn't have to be a life-size train. It may be as simple as understanding, a lot of times you're working with a branding consultant when you're opening a new practice or when you're changing the way that your practice is. And so if you're working with that branding consultant, I want to work with them or I want to get all of their work through you so I understand the direction that you're going and then we can pull those colors in. Don't miss an opportunity to brand your space so that it speaks for you before you even get into the room. This is a real thing that makes an impression, and you don't want to miss that opportunity. So it could be as simple as color. It doesn't have to be custom animated, excitement. It can just be something as simple as how are you going to do the color? What style are you going for in the furniture? What's the vibe you want to create? Simple and no nonsense. I do a lot of work with the finishes that you have to have in your practice anyway. We're talking about flooring or ceilings or ductwork. And we can make that a decorative accent that costs you no more than me making the right pattern choices and designs for you with those inexpensive materials that you're going to use anyway.
Yeah, that's very great. Especially like one area that I'm most interested in to see, like with designers, because that really shows how expert they are. You have to be detailed at the same time you have to be simple.
Very true. The space should look good before you start bringing in extras like artwork or window coverings. It should look good to start with. So your flooring, that's a wayfinding opportunity. You can direct people to things, insinuate things in certain areas just by changing the flooring in certain designs and layout. And this only takes creativity. It doesn't take additional materials. It just takes combining those materials in the way that makes sense for your practice.
And Michelle, how would you say your line of work has affected like your personal life since you were a CPA until you became an artist right now? Like I'm sure it changes a lot.
It does. And I will say that being a CPA and a finance professional and working for somebody else gives you a different feeling of freedom than when you are an entrepreneur and you have that type of freedom. Type of the entrepreneurial freedom is not exactly freedom, but I do take my work very personally and I love what I'm doing. So I'm constantly learning and listening to really improve like the next product that I put out. So I find it fascinating, but it's also relentless if I'm answering you truthfully because it's so intense what I feel like we're doing with the clients that we work with. It's really personal for me to get that vision and send it on its way down the path so that the
It would have been
experience can happen.
yeah,
Doctor, it would have
it's
been
all about
so
experience.
great if we had some of Michelle's workings, like how the dental offices look before and after. If you could
No,
show them.
seriously. Yeah, no, I was just saying, yes. Yeah. I mean, because with with the platform with me and Masu we're building Dentment, and that's like social media platform that we're building for like pre-dental, dental student and dentists. So we can put Miss Michelle work all over before, after.
Well, that's great. I've got lots of pictures.
Well, Miss Michelle, the one thing that is also fascinating about you that I've been like kind of focused on from the beginning is how is your teeth so white?
I just got my, what is this, like my second round of braces off. And so I'm being really good about like the water, the hydro floss and the brushing and my retainers and everything. It's just, I am very excited about dental. I know that healthy teeth means overall better health. And so I lean into that all the way.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I'm like, wow, that's
Doctor,
awesome. No,
how
I
come you've
love
never
that.
said that about me? I also have very white teeth. I don't know.
You do have
I
white teeth.
don't, I don't
Tough.
know. Well, you don't have Miss Michelle smile. That's why I'm asking. Well, Miss Michelle, the one thing that me and Master, we have done, we've been doing this podcast for about a year now, a little over a year. There are a lot of people that we talk to from like, CEOs of like some dental offices and dental companies, Dr. Hughes, Dr. Negraj, a lot of different people. The one thing that always comes up is like the branding, the branding has become such a big conversation in our industry that you got to build your brand. You got to do this. So the one thing I want to ask is, this is something they never talk to us about in dental school. They never talk to you about this kind of things. So the one thing I wanted to ask you is, especially for younger dentists, a lot of them, they may not know this. How do you really help the dentist build their brand? Because the branding part is also important, right? Like you mentioned, the coloring, the design, the sign, all of that. If a dentist doesn't really know what they want out of their practice, and let's say they wanted to come to you and say, Miss Michelle, I really don't know where I want to go with my practice. I don't know even what I want to do when I acquire a practice, and I don't know how to build my brand. How are you helping them to come up with those ideas so that they can build their brand and they can get educated on how to build their brand and to kind of make their coloring make sense, make their things make sense? How are you helping them in that process? Because I think that's also so important for even for myself to learn. How are you really helping the dentist to be able to understand their branding perspective?
Yes, and that is a really insightful question because I do talk about branding a lot. If they are doing their branding like from a logo perspective and choosing their colors and that sort of thing, I will often refer them to my network of people that handle every aspect of dentistry and supporting dental businesses. I have recently I've made it a point to be involved in the dental vendor networks that are around so that I can start to meet other people in dentistry because I, as a designer, I spend a lot of time with my clients. Like I said, it's very personal. I'm taking their personality, and splashing it through their practice to create a message. So it's important that I have resources to share with them. So I have made it a point to create a network of people that I can then refer to help my dentists get the answers that they're looking for, especially if they're new dentists.
Mhm.
I recently had a dentist who moved back from out of state, and she wanted to open a dental practice in her hometown, which is in almost a little bit rural in North Carolina here. And she was wonderful, talented dentist. She was going to be working with children. And I consulted with her on her branding. Even though she had a branding consultant and a firm that was doing this, she would ask me the questions. And one of the simple things was it was the name of the town and pediatric dentistry. And they had the name of the town really big and pediatric dentistry like smaller. And I said, if somebody's driving by really quickly at night and looking at your sign, they're just going to see the name of the town. You want to get across that this is a pediatric dental practice so that they can come back during the day and check it out.
Mm.
So, simple things like that, I will kind of check in with the process. I do not know everything. I will just share my opinions in the conversations as requested by the people I'm working with. But I do have a lot of connections to help dental owners come up and get up and running, from security and IT, construction, you name it, even site finding. There's so many aspects to starting a practice. I love to connect people.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that's an important part of our industry is that just that connection and being able to meet different people. And that's kind of how our experience has been is like just making connection with individuals that are in the industry. And I always say this: the one thing I love about, since I graduated dental school, the one thing I love about dental industry is just like people are so open and willing to help one another, uplift each other. It's so weird. Me and Masood, we met last year out of nowhere, and then we became, I don't
And
know, I
yet,
feel like
over video
we
calls.
haven't met on person, but we have met on phone calls. But it almost feels like, he's like my brother from another mother. That's how close we have become.
Oh yeah.
So, it's just one of those things that I think our industry is so powerful. When I hear these kind of things, that we're able to like help one another and just make those referral and connection. That's an amazing thing.
I would agree. This is a really special industry. I've worked in a lot of different industries through the work that I've done in my career, and this industry is just, it's magical. I love it. I love working with the practice owners. I love the people in it. They are detail-oriented enough, but they still have such a great sense of humor. It's sort of dry and sarcastic. They're really intelligent and kind and very generous and giving as far as wanting to provide a great experience for their team and their patients. So I really love this field. This is something like I haven't seen in any other field, I have to tell you.
Master, did you hear that, Master? That was all about me. Go ahead, Miss Michelle. Tell me more.
Even go about that show for days.
No, I'm kidding. Absolutely. I believe that the one thing that you said, it's so funny. We were just discussing this. So yeah, the dentists do have some dry humor for sure.
It's the best. That's
Definitely.
my type of
Hey,
humor.
we have to figure it out one way or another. We meet so many people as we go through the day, so we gotta figure out how to have some fun along the way. So I don't know. I guess you gotta have a little bit of a personality to get in this field. If not, then you'll be in big trouble.
You definitely do because that's what leaves the imprint. And that is something you touch on that I really want to mention is when you are designing a practice for yourself, for your future and your brand, it doesn't have to be all perfect. You need a few things that are a little off, a little you, so that you can really make a connection with the patients that are coming in. And I'll give you a quick example. I was working on a prosthodontics office, as I mentioned, and this one, these guys kind of reminded me of the madmen. They were like the madmen of dentistry. They wanted to do a great job. They were really motivated and they were really fun. And we went with like this Palm Springs sort of vibe underlying everything. And it was beautiful and, calm and relaxing for the patients. But then when you got to their restroom, open it up, and you are suddenly in the middle of Palm Springs, and there's flamingos in a pool everywhere, all around the room. Huge, like it was an image, and it looked like you just stepped into a backyard pool party in Palm Springs with giant pink flamingos everywhere. Now, that's something a little bit hidden, but a little bit quirky and really makes an impression on somebody that they'll be like, that place. I remember that place. And they'll feel like they know you if you give them some breadcrumbs into what it is that you're about. So don't forget those fun, quirky moments when you're putting together your practice.
That's awesome. Well,
Cool. Go ahead.
Master, before you do it, I was, my last name, it's OWJI. And every time I walk into my, operating room and I introduce myself to the patient, they're like, G? I'm like, yeah, I'm that original gangster. So I think I gotta figure something out with my last name when it comes to branding, I guess.
You definitely do. You can't let a good opportunity like the OG go to waste.
Actually,
You got to use that.
I mistakenly say it another way, which I'm not gonna say on this podcast. But it's OG is very good, original gangster.
You
So
need some
Michelle,
bling. You need some
I know.
big bling.
I know. I need the flavor style type of watch.
Just stay away from the crunk cup. You'll be fine.
That's funny. Well,
Michelle,
no,
I'm very
it's
interested to know. Sorry that I keep cutting you off.
no. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Know how much passion I have for this question. Because
Yes.
I've seen a few people around that, when you're an artist, you see the world in a different way than other people do. Like, just like how you were explaining the flamingos, like in water and like, all the things. Like, that's a way that I'm sure neither me or Mila can explain it that way. Did the way you view the world change from when you were in finance and when you became an artist?
I would say yes, definitely. I feel like it expanded because this piece of me was there as a child when I was rearranging my friends' rooms. Then it went sort of a little bit silent in a lot of ways. And I layered on top of that all the things that I learned in business that I also enjoyed. And so when I found a way to combine the two, it just exponentially seemed to explode as far as opportunity and a way to make a difference in the world. So I felt that I had really found the way that it was supposed to be, the way that I was supposed to help the businesses. I've always helped businesses, but this is the way that I truly love. So if that answers your question.
That's a pretty way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. The one thing that you did mention, Miss Michelle, kind of because a lot of time, I hear from a lot of dentists, everything, and that's maybe a good thing or maybe a bad thing, but you did kind of touch up on it, and I wanted to go back to that because when I speak to a lot of dentists, when we sit down and we're having conversation, the dentist, their focus is always is like, well, if I'm spending money on something, I want to have a return on that investment, right? I want to spend money on marketing. I want some return on it. I'm investing money on some tool. I want some return on it. And you mentioned that when you're designing an office, is essentially going to have an ROI for that dentist. And that kind of raise my curiosity is like, how is the design in the office has direct relationship with the ROI for the dentist? Because that's a fascinating part.
Right. Well, when you're putting your vision together as a business owner and you're looking at what you want to achieve, what you expect to achieve with your new practice and how that's going to lay out, you have this vision in your head. And it's my job to get on that wavelength with you and pull that vision from you. Then take it, run with it, and build a practice around it. I can only explain it as you are taking that vision and putting it around you so that every day you show up in that space and you are like, this is who I am. So when you create that vision in real life of the person you want to become or where you want to get to, you're almost collapsing time and getting there faster. For example, a pediatric practice that I helped design a new location for, they moved from 3 chairs and 2 rooms just down the street, not very far, to 4 rooms and 6 chairs. And it was a really large practice. They were thinking it was going to take them a year to get to the numbers that they had targeted. I went back there a few months later, they told me they had already hit the numbers that they were projecting, that the space was at full capacity, that people were everywhere, and they were already thinking about what to do next. And I've heard this time and time again from the practices that I've personally worked with. And you'll start a new practice, you'll be, "Oh, I'm not gonna fit out that room right now, I'm gonna wait." 2 months later, they're back. "Okay, we need to fit out that room right now. Can we get, the wall situation or whatever?" And then they're calling their dental equipment people. I am seeing this a lot, and I was recently at a conference. I was at the, Dental Entrepreneur Women Conference that Ann Duffy runs. It's amazing, and I was talking to dentists there about renovations. And one dentist turned to the other and she's like, "Well, whenever we renovated, business would boom. And so we would, use the space up and then we'd do it again like a few years later." She's like, "There's always an uptick." And this was directly just a few weeks ago from another dentist I was sitting there having a conversation with. I didn't sway the conversation. So it was interesting to see that other people see this too. And I'm starting to collect data on this because, that's how my finance mind works, so that I can actually tell people, more stories of realizations of goals faster by creating the environment they want to step into each day.
So essentially, I mean, is that something that, so because based on what you just said, so every couple of years, the dentist renovating their practice or touching up on something, you're saying it can be helpful for their kind of enhancing their branding and how the patient view the practice. Is that correct, essentially?
Yes, because
Okay.
that what get focus, gets attention and you're focusing on that. So think of, when you dress a certain way to go out or to go to a meeting, you have a almost like a persona on the outside to remind you of your purpose. And that's how I view these spaces, is it's a persona that holds their purpose, and the purpose is expanding. What they want to achieve is expanding. And so you just keep doing it, right? You just keep doing it until you get to where you want to be, or you just keep doing it.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing.
Joe, what has been the most challenging project you'd say you've worked on with the dental practice?
One of the most challenging projects that I worked on was not a dental practice. It was a different type of a business. It was still a wellness practice, but it was different. And as I mentioned to you, the dental office, the small dental office moving into a large space. This practice was again a small practice moving into a large space. And the business owner had a lot of different ideas about what she wanted to achieve with the space. The opportunities are endless, right? When you're a practitioner that works with other practitioners and creates something in one spot for everybody to come together, opportunities are endless. And it was a tough conversation to narrow it down to get a design in place that would meet all of her needs. So there was a lot of iterations that happened throughout the process. And then at the end, I think that we got there, but there was still room because her vision hadn't fully formed yet. So wanting to give her something that would really give her a successful place to start, I think I know we achieved that. But having it be like a dentist that comes in and is like, thank you, this is it, this is my vision. That wasn't that same thing. That was more, this is a launching pad. So I would have liked to have been able to, I'd like to go back and do it now that she's looking to expand, I'd like to, but she has a good baseline. She doesn't need much. It's just, it wasn't as clear as a lot of other projects. So it does depend on how much we can get in sync on what the business owner is looking to achieve and how clear they are with their vision too. That always helps.
Oh man, oh man. Well, Miss Michelle, I can tell you that, man, you got a tough road ahead of you because working with dentists are not easy, man. That I can tell you.
I love them all. I love working with these dentists. That has never been a challenge in all the places that I've done.
I made
Come
my
on, Miss
exit
Mich-
leaving.
Come on, Miss Michelle. Tell us we are tough to work with. Tell us. No, because some dentists they're very like I mean I have friends that are, obviously they're in the industry and sometimes they get way too like they want everything to be super perfectionist and they want to be they're super detail oriented and I feel like sometimes that can be hard and
Did I mention I'm a CPA and I'm super detail oriented? We get along great.
oh yeah, yeah, never mind that.
Yes, I
Yeah.
understand that drive. I know that you guys, you work with such small spaces. It's millimeters and you're focused on that. And I expect that. I expect that level of perfection, that expectation that this is going to be what you wanted. And so I go in expecting it.
I just hope that once you're done your project, they don't walk around with their loops checking everything.
We check it together along the way to make sure that we land in the right spot.
That's amazing. Well, I love that. Well, Miss Michelle, I don't want to take any more of your time. Man, every time we have this podcast, and Masud knows this too. It's just like, man, every time we do another episode, I get to meet somebody new. And I always say this, it's like, I'm super grateful for, anyone that comes on our podcast and gives us their time. I'm truly thank you for giving that to us and providing the information for our audience. The goal with this podcast is to really educate and really teach others what dentistry can be. So I'm so thankful the fact that you give us your time this afternoon. Truly appreciate it.
I'm thankful for the opportunity. I am a big fan of education and mentorship, and I'm very grateful that I can be here to share this information with your audience. I think it's really important that they understand that they're going to put such an investment into their space. And with just a little bit of effort, you can really make it work for you and create almost another employee. So don't miss that opportunity, whoever you work with. and really just create that space of your vision and step into it every day and feel proud and do the good work and impact the community and all the families that are going to be affected by your business.
Wow. Well, Miss Michelle, with that being said, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank
Man,
you.
I think Masood, I think Miss Michelle have the best smile so far on Dentman podcast. No disrespect to anybody else, but I think she got the title. I
No,
can
I
put a proof
agree.
on that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
I'll
very
take this.
jealous. And Miss Michelle, I hope that we get to see you in person on one of the events. Hope to work with you down the line in the future. I'm so grateful for this connection that we have made. If there is anything me, Masul, can do to help out, please we're always here for you. Reach out to us. I will, for our audience, I will put all Miss Michelle's information on the description of our YouTube channel. Please reach out to her and, let's design your practice and let's make the patient experience a little bit better. Thank you so much, Miss Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Bye bye.